Good? We're live.
We're live. Oh, we're ready to start this meeting?
Yes.
I don't know who calls it to order. We don't have a chair.
I'll call it to order. First order of business for the committee is to elect a chair. So nominations for election of a chair.
I nominate Councilman Lesser.
Lovely.
Is there a second?
And second,
I figured this was coming, sure.
you are institutional memory for whatever
Will
that's
Councilman
worth.
Lesser accept the chairmanship?
Yes, I'll accept
All right,
it.
So there's been a motion and a second to elect Councilman Lesser as chair of the Policy and Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Councilman Lesser, the floor is yours as chair now.
We won't switch chairs today.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Thank you, City Manager. It looks like the first item we have on our agenda is a discussion in regards to the governing body meeting location. I assume, City
Yes.
Manager, you will start that discussion?
Yes, thank you. We've had some put forward to the governing body position of looking at allowing us to modify the code that would allow us to have our meetings at different locations within the city. My purpose was to look at having those meetings twofold, two reasons. One was to allow the meetings, like what I'd like to do is have it that the first and third meetings will focus on action items, and the second meeting in the month will focus on discussion items, and that we would have the meeting, for example, in the Holiday Building, arrange the tables and chairs similar to what we did with the budget meeting, and allow staff to sit at the table and have discussions with the governing body member regarding those items that maybe new ideas, new positions that we're looking at taking. Some of it can be informational, but mainly looking at that it's more conducive in that kind of a setting to have a discussion about something that we're working on or proposing. Or if the governing body has an item that they want to have a in-depth discussion on that they're debating or something that's going on, it'll be a little more productive or a little more easier to do that, not at the dais. Now, that does not mean that those meetings that were held there, for example, wouldn't also potentially have an action item. Things come up. Sometimes we need to go ahead and move forward with doing action. And so each meeting may have an action item or two. There may be appointments that we'll still go ahead and approve, but we'll try and keep the focus more on discussion items rather than on action items. The other thing is that there's been interest in the idea that we take our council meetings on the road to the various districts and allow us to have meetings and allow citizens to be closer to their the ability to attend the meeting instead of having to always come downtown if they want to attend the council meeting. And so we looked at that as another option. I'm going to pass around a document that Molly put together. She's in charge of City 4. And in order for us to be able to go to another location, there are some pieces of equipment that we need to have in order to be able to do so that we don't have. And total cost was $12,362. So we have a lot of it. The good news is there was one item that, one of the larger items we were already looking at having to purchase. So we have money in the capital improvement budget for City 4, about $50,000 a year is what I remember we put into her budget for case equipment breaks or whatever. So this is money that we've already set aside in the budget to make equipment purchases. We would just make the decision that these would be the purchases that we would do. So in other words, it's not an add to the budget, it's already available money in the budget. But we wouldn't buy these pieces of equipment necessarily unless this council wanted to go that direction. So wanted to show you what it would cost in order for us to go on the road with the council meeting. So.
And when you say on the road, these would be on the road, not including law enforcement center where we're at right here.
Yeah, if we wanted to go
Holiday.
to Topeka High School and
Right.
set up, or we wanted to go to so-and-so's community center and set up and have a meeting, or a church, or wherever we wanted to go, this gives us the equipment that's necessary to do that. Molly, go ahead.
And a couple quick questions. Are we required to broadcast these meetings?
No, it is set up in the council rules, I believe, that we will broadcast the meetings, but that is in the council rules, and you could change that if you wanted to. So there's no requirement to broadcast per state law or anything like that. It's
You have
simple.
to record it, though.
We have to
For
record.
state law, yeah.
Yeah, so,
And that was my next question then. Of this $12,000 additional expenses, if we were to go to Topeka High School and do it and record it, what of these additional expenses would we have to incur, or would we not have to incur any of those?
You mean as opposed to televising?
Yeah,
Recording versus-
my question is what I'm getting at is, we go to Topeka High School, we record the meeting, it's not live on TV, it's not required to do that, but then it's able then to be broadcast
Gotcha.
after
Later
it's
date.
recorded at a later date.
Okay.
So the biggest thing would be audio equipment. Right now, we only have enough audio for like 3 or 4 microphones, and because we would need 15 or 16, we would have to purchase a bigger audio panel. So that would be the biggest thing, and also a projector and a projector screen. Just because not every place has those, it's not always available, it doesn't always work. So we'd also have to get a laptop from IT to be able to have that available so we could have those discussions and have those presentations.
so that's the 5520 and the projector 645 and the screen 97. So those items we would have to do.
Yes.
Question.
Yep.
So basically this question, we would need to buy that stuff anyway, because in order to be able to record everyone who's participating in that meeting, we still need all of those microphones.
Right.
All of that and recording equipment to upgrade to that many people at once.
Right. So unless you want to go live, the thing we wouldn't have to purchase would be the LiveView transmitter system.
Which is the,
So it'd basically be half the cost if we decide we were just going to record versus doing it live.
That's correct.
And all of this money has already been
Excuse
set
me, Ms.
aside in the
Nager, can you-
project.
Ms. Nager, can you please address the chair if you'd like?
Mr. Chair. But yeah, we already have this money budgeted for projects like this, and so it's not going to be taking anything additional out of the budget.
Right. We have
Okay.
a small CIP budget. So what we do have to buy this year for our CIP is a TriCaster, and that's about $35,000. So that's already a big portion of our CIP. So this is basically what we would use the rest of our CIP money for this
Okay,
year.
sounds good. And were there any other projects that you had kind of coming down the pike that this would usurp it?
Yes, but we've kind of made plans for that, and we're just putting it off until next year. So the biggest thing, if we did do the live view, is there would be an $1,800 recurring cost that we would have to budget in for every year.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Sir Chair, right?
Sir Chair McCartney.
All right, well, I have some general questions, comments. These are in no particular order, okay? So they're just, I'm generally supportive of this, and I know the reason it's in this committee is because we were tasked with crafting some of the things that the other council members wanted. I'm curious, is there a thought on how many of these a year do you have in your mind, or an idea of the goal is to do 1 a month or 5 a year, or what's kind of the plan, if there is one for that?
Well, the regular second meetings, I would look that we would do that once a month. But as far as actually going out on the road to a
Yeah.
meeting other than a city, I think, if we did that anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year, I think that's enough. I think that the idea being is we'd want to just rotate it around the different districts, but I think 4 a year would be the max that I would propose.
Okay.
But if we're gonna spend the money, I'd want to be looking at anywhere from 2.
Actually use it.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
actually utilize it if we were going to.
And the reason I ask that is, I guess it would be and whether that, I guess preferably craft this into whatever we send on to the council, is something that gives us maybe more than the advance notice we give currently just on what we do for the agenda.
Sure.
In other words, if we could look at these and say our expectation is take a look at the calendar year. These are the meetings we're going to move, and on these we would like to have a minimum of 30 days notice, so that then we have an opportunity to really tell the public we're moving the meeting to this location as opposed to just 2 weeks notice.
Sure.
So I mean, if that's not, I mean, I'd like to see something that has a bigger notice of that to the public
Right.
when we do that, and I think that was something discussed. And again, I don't know if this one has to be crafted in it, but I'd like us to, over the long term, have some goal of, whether it's over a 2-year or 3-year rotation, trying to hit all 9 districts at some point. You know, now that's, I know facilities make that difficult in some districts, but I don't, you know, as much as it'd be great to have it in District 8, I don't want us to always do them in District 8, or at least to be able to say, our goal is to rotate these through so that over a certain amount of time, we know we went to your district eventually. And if we're doing 4 a year over 3 years, that seems like that could be a possibility.
Yeah, I definitely think that that would be the case, in the sense that we would be able to, get the 9 districts done within the 2-year period, would ensure that everyone that's currently on the council before their term would expire. So say they were in the last 2 years of their term, it would occur within their district and that everybody's district within that 2-year period. I don't think that'd be.
And I don't want to handicap your ability to move those meetings, but that's why, I mean, I don't know if that's something we just want to say that's our expectation, or if it's something we want to actually craft into the policy over
I think
3
that
years.
would be.
You know?
I think it would be good to put that into the policy, that way that ensures that it's fair, and you don't have to worry about someone missing out
Abusing.
on it, having it, because the purpose is to reach the citizens and allow them to have a closer proximity to be able to come and check out a council meeting. I think saying in the policy that all districts will have a meeting within a 2-year period, I think that's a great way to do it.
So then make sure it happens, I guess,
Yeah.
right? At least you can't repeat the same site
Exactly,
without
that
going to another.
ensures, and, you know, and that's the thing too, we can work, each district has a good idea of what might be a good each council member has a good idea of where a location might be for that, and they can submit and give us an idea, staff an idea that might be a good location.
Okay. Those are my couple things.
Couple questions I have as well, as is the majority of these lovely ladies here, as we see, you know, running these meetings here right now, are these individuals, are they paid hourly? Are they paid salary-wise? What is the compensation for the employees who would be, what I'm looking at is, I'd like to also have what's estimated cost. What's not included here is an additional labor. How is that going to be addressed?
So all of my employees are hourly. So I give them the ability to kind of flex their hours so they stay at around 40 hours a week. So if they work 12 hours on Tuesday, they can leave early on Friday. So it's kind of my department's policy, because I know sometimes we do have a lot of meetings and they do have other duties that they perform. So, you know, my biggest concern is if we're going out somewhere and it's taking us 4 hours instead of 2 hours to set up, it's going to cut into their other duties and their other responsibilities.
So then that brings me back to the question, do we anticipate any additional costs in payroll for this program?
No, I don't think so. We'd work around it.
Okay. Other question is, have we gone to the process of, you said Topeka High School, you know, identifying different locations. I'm looking at so I'm thinking now, okay, I'm looking at District 9, you know, for instance, at what point we have it in District 9. And so I'm thinking, okay, where would that be that would be feasible that we could have that? So I'm thinking, okay, possibly Children's Discovery Center, I'm thinking possibly a zoo, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Your house?
No, not my house. One place I can tell you it will not be. And, but my question is, have those conversations taken place to make sure that we then don't end up also having to have additional costs that we have to rent a facility to have the meeting?
I have not had those conversations yet, but potential locations. I know that one of the things that we're going to need to look at is the security at each of those locations. You know, now we are screening, and we have that as the lockdown. That bag screening facility stays put. You know, we can have a metal wand that can cover those and check people, but we'll have to make sure that we have locations that we know we can control the amount of entry and exit that they have. Because we'll have police officers there like we normally would, but we'll have to have do some work, sort of pre-work when we're looking at a location. And so one of the things that I can tell you though is that oftentimes we have public meetings for like if there's a project going on in a neighborhood and we have a public meeting to talk about that project. Most of the churches have been very willing to work with us, and the school as well, to allow us to have those meetings at no charge. So there is some precedent that some of those nice locations that we would consider have given us free access to their facility, but I haven't confirmed any of them for something like this.
Yeah, please.
I mean, does the county, like if we use like when the police did theirs at the rec center, because obviously Crestview's in my district, do they waive fees for us, or do we?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good question. I'll have to follow
And
up.
no addition, we don't look at any additional, I mean, if our security that we have here just would not obviously be here, they would be
Right, so,
there.
yeah, we would have our court officers deployed to the location just as they normally would, and that's built into their schedule regarding the overtime that they would have. So it would end up being the same type of expense related to security. You know, and depending on the location, it might require an additional officer, but it's always going to be an on-duty officer that would come to the meeting for the period of time, depending on what we have.
Do we have a mobile metal detector? Will that be done by wand?
It probably would be done by wand, and then as we do typically at venue events, they'll need to open their bags and check their bags instead of just scanning. So we have to make sure that we let people know that they probably want to allow a little extra time when they're coming to a meeting, because we'll have to go through a little more manual process to check security to make sure that there aren't weapons in their bags.
I'll just kind of voice my opinion, and I think I'd be helpful to see, just kind of give a first layer what the three of us are thinking. I like the idea of if it's fiscally responsible, I like the idea of taking the meetings, you know, to the different districts, you know, similar to, as I think you and I talked about, similar to the Supreme Court, you know, has taken some of their hearings to the University of Kansas and Kansas State and all this. I like that. Opportunity to do that, go out in the community. If we were going to do that, I would think it would make also more sense to especially if we're only going to do it, you know, 2 to 4 times a year out in the district. I think it makes sense to take advantage of that opportunity and what we're doing, and whether that means having something before the meeting, whether it's some booths of different departments, you know,
That's a great
things
idea.
like that, voter registration.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
can do a resource fair.
all those type of things prior to that. I'll be real honest, I'm not real excited, nor do I see much of the benefit of saying we're going to move it from city council to the law enforcement center or to the holiday building. I just don't see what we're gaining there. I think we're creating confusion of where it's going to be. I don't know that that's really reaching out in the community or where we're going. I just don't. I think it creates extra work. I just don't see that as. I don't see that as being beneficial. And furthermore, you know, if we were going to do that, I'd rather use one of those times to go out into the community and say, okay, we're going to. If let's say we're doing it 4 times and the plan was 2 of them out in districts and then 2 of them at either Holiday, LEC, blah, 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 I think it makes more sense to do them all somewhere out. Summarizing, overall, I like that idea of going out into the community to the different districts. I don't know that I'm supportive of moving it from the council just to other places. We'll go on to Dr. Nager.
I'm supportive of this as well, as far as having the flexibility. I think one of the things we're really talking about is just making sure that that flexibility is built within how we govern ourselves, rather than talking about the specifics, though I'm very happy that we're talking about the specifics. And I agree that if it's fiscally responsible and if it's engaging constituents, I'm really on the same page as if we're just gonna move over to the Holiday Building, I'm not sure how many new people that would engage. And I do see this as a tool to engage constituents. And so, and engage different organizations within the community. For me, in District 6, a great place would be Washburn University. And it's a way to go ahead and tie Washburn more into that fabric of the city, and us into them. So we have that interplay. And so I see this not only as a way to get constituents involved, but a way to get organizations involved, and really work on that consensus building. So.
Yeah, one thing is you're saying that we could look at always doing is whatever location we're going to, we may want to look at the beginning of the meeting when we have presentations, that either whoever is our host, that they would be able to give the presentations about what they're doing and be able to welcome you
Yeah.
to welcome to our facility. We appreciate you coming and spending your meeting time here with us, that type of thing.
Absolutely.
And they can talk about either what's going on in their church or their NIAs or whatever happens to be going on in their neighborhood, and allow some opportunity to get a little more immersed in what's going on in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think that'd be a good interplay between like a resource fair beforehand, and then them kind of telling us more about them. And so, yeah, and that really couples with the idea of doing more non-action items at those meetings, really facilitating discussion, and between the city and the government. So
Okay.
I think it's a great idea, and it's a good place to start.
Okay.
Mr. Duncan?
Oh, well, obviously, as I said earlier, I'm generally supportive. I laid out a few things I'd like to see to make it a little more amenable, I think. I mean, I don't make any decisions based off social media because that would be asinine. However, I do try to be pretty active, and I put this one out there after we discussed about it, and it was overwhelmingly positive. People said, that'd be great. Now, I tell everybody civic engagement is a two-way street, right? We have a responsibility as staff and elected people to try to do these types of things, get in the community, and they have a responsibility to show up. Does this mean we think lots of more people show up? I have no idea. But I feel like at least if we're doing this a few times a year, we're showing folks that we have a genuine interest in. Okay, you don't want to come downtown all the time? Great. We're in your district, you have an opportunity to come to a city council meeting. And so I think that's a big positive. So yeah, if we can get some of these little details worked out, I think it'll be something we can get behind.
What, Mr. Duncan, can you address the other piece of the ones that Hannah and I addressed in regards to Holiday Building?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think moving one, if they were farther, in a sense, if they were farther away, like if one of those was across the river, I might feel different, but we're talking 1 block radius. So I feel from that perspective, moving 1 block doesn't really accomplish much, from that perspective. And I get it. I know originally those are already set up, so we don't have to do the mobile thing. And if you want to start these before we are able to do all the other, I get the concept of being able to say, well, we could do that now. Next month, we could move there, have a meeting, and show people we're moving. But I think people would rather just see us put this in place, get it out, and then start those, as opposed to us just going through the motions of moving 1 block over. So.
I do have one more question, Mr. Chair.
Dr. Nager?
Thank you. Who would coordinate the venue setup?
I would probably have between Liz and my assistant, have
Okay.
them help work, and then of course with Molly, because she's going to need to know how the particular location is and how it lays out, and probably would take along someone from the court, the supervisor that manages the court, security officers, and make sure when we go to the site, we would
It's secure.
get the recommendation on a potential site, and then we would go and look, because, Liz provides support to you guys as far as bringing your mail and other things and books and different things, and work with her to be able to set that up, and then
Okay.
make sure and verify that the court feels like they have a workable solution to be able to control access.
I think at this point in time, then I think probably what we need to do is formalize a little bit of what this discussion has been to this point and kind of give you some direction of what we're saying. And so what I would make a motion that we can then still have some more discussion for, but I would make a motion that at this point the committee is directing the city manager to begin working on moving forward with this plan under the parameters that it would be for off-site meetings in the different districts, not Holiday Building, not Law Enforcement Center, not here. I would say to set it up, I would suggest no more than 4 times a year, which would be each quarter. And the reason I say that is if we're going to do this, then we need to do it right. And that is, collaborating with, Washburn, collaborating with, if we have it at East Topeka, Washburn to East, something like that. And, these are going to become kind of and what I like about it is they will become kind of events. And so, and then 4 may even be too many, so we can have it set up so there's, like I said, voting registration, there's, whatever those
Responsible
parameters that we work
opportunities.
the details out. But that would be what I'm hearing. Any discussion, or I guess that's my motion. Is there a second for discussion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I think when we look at the districts, probably the best way to word it instead of a year would just be you can't, legal will figure this out, however, just you can't repeat a district until you've cycled through all 9 districts, if that makes, however that's worded. That way you're not putting because if we do 4 a year, obviously you can't get to 9 in 2 years, but if you word it that way, you can't return to a district until you've gone through the rotation. So, and then I would like something about advance notice, giving us, making at least a little longer than just the regular agenda time.
Yeah, and I think what we'll do, what I would recommend is that when we approve the council calendar, we will designate the month that it'll be, and we'll just draw a name out of a hat, District 1, whatever, and we'll draw a name numbers out of the hat and set it up, and we'll say March, a district meeting will be held in that district in the month of March. And then we'll, as staff, coordinate the date. And then one in the month of June in District 4, and then just line those out, and then we'll coordinate it. And that way we know we get through all of them. And we'll know what month, at least right off the bat, January 1, we'll know this month we're going to have one on the road in this district. And then we'll coordinate and set that up with the, once you know your district, say you know your district, you can give us input on where, staff can then get the coordination done.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I guess, do you want to reread the motion? No. Does anyone need the motion? Or do you have, you got what you need?
Yeah.
Okay,
Excellent.
all in favor? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Good. I appreciate it. I think this is going to be good. I mean, my last comment would be, you mentioned about the idea of a 4-year, but often, so many times as staff, we're always looking for opportunities to get people to hear about what programs we're doing. And this is just going to be another opportunity for us to do that. And then, if we're setting up there and we're resource fairs from 4:30 to 5:30 or 5:45, and then that staff can go on. They're really not talking about staff having to give extra time, and they would do that anyway. That opportunity is going to be something that we're always looking for, those kind of extra opportunities.
Well, things come to mind. I mean, even Sylvia's always been, in Fire Awareness Month, Sylvia's very,
Yeah,
very, that's where we maybe have them, with 100.
With applications to come visit.
for fire, all those different things. It just gives us the opportunity to do that, and I think that makes sense. Any other items before the committee, before we schedule our next meeting? Anything you two need to bring up, or?
I think so.
Nope, I don't know.
Okay, I think,
Just learn their hourly, so shorter meetings are good for the budget.
I think the only, I see our Mrs. Robertson has showed up. I don't know if she was watching and we did something that she's really concerned about.
I gotta go stop them.
She wasn't jumping up and down or doing anything like that, so I don't see any officers in the hallway, so I think we're good. Next meeting, how much time do you need before coming back to us with a preliminary? Do we want to schedule for next month? Do we? What do you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We'll just, I think with, probably try to shoot for maybe the first week of April, because I have some vacation in March. I'll try and, it's going to be a little tougher to be sure, but if I can get it done in the next week or two, we'll do it prior to the 20th of March. Otherwise, then it will be the last week, the first part of April.
Okay, we'll have Liz then send out some questions. As chair of the committee, I make a managerial decision. There will not be Monday morning or Friday afternoon committee meetings, just so you know.
Monday, 7 a.m. sounds great.
Don't send them.
About?
Don't ask. Not happening. Okay. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And second?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
10-4. Just so you know, that was